What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again. And you know what? Today I just feel a little hopeful, and you probably know why. Hey, if it's your first time here, glad to have you. If you're a return viewer, thanks for coming back and thanks for watching more videos. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. And remember, leave me those comments down in the comment section. You know how I love to read them. You know how I love to interact with you guys. And you know how I love to feature you guys if you give me some good comments. And today, which is part of our kind of topic and everything that we're covering, Jeremy Spencer writes, I think I called the old Vince buying back the league thing in a previous post, if I'm correct. It's just a Vince move. Jeremy, I'm totally with you. Listen, it's something that I've said before, and you are more than correct. It is a total Vince move. And I've got a lot of emotions about this and a lot of things that we need to unpack. But for you guys who just want the news and just want to know what's going on, here's the deal. The Athletic, which I don't have a subscription to or whatever, but they went out there and they put out that Vince McMahon has covert plans to buy back or buy out of bankruptcy the XFL. That's right. Take that in. Vince McMahon is going to buy the league that he put up for bankruptcy back again. That's the first bit of news. The second bit of news, which adds more credence to the first bit of news, is that Jeffrey Pollack, who's the president of the XFL, no, he wasn't the CEO, no, he's not Oliver Luck, and yes, the Oliver Luck, that whole lawsuit and thing is still out there, still going, but Jeffrey Pollack, the president who still is with the XFL, is now calling all of the venues, or at least calling venues, multiple venues, and trying to see if their current contracts, if they will still honor them, if they can get back into a contract with them to, for the future. We don't have any details. We just know that it has been verified as such. And we'll get into that here in a moment. So that's the quick recap for you guys that want to know things real quick and dirty. Here is the long of it. And let's just unpack this. I don't really know what to think throughout all of this. And let's just start with Jeremy Spencer's comment. This is so a Vince move. This is a Vince McMahon move like you've never seen one before. I mean, this is the whole bait and switch. And let's just stay on that front for right now. And just look at that, okay? If Vince was truly looking at giving up the league, he might have done the whole and filed for Chapter 7 as opposed to Chapter 11. Now, I covered that in a different video. Kind of the crux of it is that the AAF, they filed for Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is you're dissolving the company, you're moving on, and they sold everything off. And if you remember, the MLFB bought all of their equipment. So you have that. But the XFL did not file for that. What they filed for is they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, what does that mean? Chapter 11 means that you're not dissolving the company and that you're going to try to save the company in some way, and so that, so you're not selling off all the assets, not piecing the company out, that really you're trying to, bring the company back afloat, whatever that means and whatever means possible for that. Part of that whole deal with the thing was the XFL being put up for sale. Well, the XFL was put up officially for sale the past week, and let's see here, they've got until I think the bids are due. They have to, by June 12th, they have to go through, and anybody who's a bidder has to go through and submit a letter of intent, of interest, and then all formal bids have to be submitted by July 6th, and then on July 8th they're going to be picking the bids. Now, that's the whole process of this or that, and it's then now been put out there, and the rumor is that Vince McMahon is going to be bidding on the XFL. Which, it kind of makes sense to me with all of the information that's going over. Is this really anything that should come of a surprise to us? Not really. I mean, the XFL was planned to lose more money than what they actually did. Yes, the XFL ended up losing money, but really it was very lucrative and very, it was a really... The league did a whole lot better than what anybody thought it would. And they even did better that actually, if you read NBC Sports article, they actually said that that they actually got really good TV ratings, which they did. And finally, after everything, NBC actually comes out and says something nice about the XFL, which is kind of a shocker because everything that they did was fire shots at them and probably, hey, listen, the old girlfriend that you used to go out with that, did you wrong and did a big flop with you, comes out, looks a lot hotter 20 years later and, doesn't pick you to go to the dance, with them. And now later in life, you're still kind of, bitter and sorrowful about that. I get it. But hey, they even admitted that the XFL did fairly well and had good TV numbers and had a really good following and response, and they still do. And that's why it's such a big deal and a big thing. And the thing about it is that there are a lot of people who are really seriously looking at buying the XFL to where, there are people bidding for it and that. It's the formal process. I mean, it is a formal process that you have to go through and do this. This is not a special thing that this happens many times. It just doesn't happen with a professional sports league, type of a thing. So we have this thing with Vince McMahon, and my thoughts on this, again, I ping-pong back and forth because the fact of the matter is I want the XFL back. I want extra football back. I had a fantastic time, and I did a video about everything that I loved about the XFL and what made the XFL special. And the XFL is special. And he knows it. McMahon knows it, and everybody else knows that the XFL is special. If it weren't for what happened to the entire world, we would still have the XFL, and it would have been a huge success, and it would have been even more than what it was. And that's the crazy thing. Who knows what would have happened if they would have been able to complete the whole entire season? They actually might have made money. Yes, that's right. They might have made money, whereas they lost less money than what they actually thought, even only doing half of the season. That's nuts. That's crazy. I mean, before everybody lost all their jobs, and I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. Before everybody lost all of their jobs throughout this whole process, they're talking about expansion. They're talking about what they're going to get ready to do for next year. This is not a thing of, this is a fledgling league. They were ready to move forward and keep going and keep moving forward with it, which is going to be interesting in the coming, months to see how everything really transpires and what's going on. But the nice thing is, and here's where I'm like fighting in my head, because McMahon is out there, and listen, I'm not a McMahon guy in that, but I don't want to lose the XFL. So on one hand, you see what he's done and the position that he's put people in and what he's done, but then on the other hand, you're like, well, I guess this is the best way for him to bring the league back and lose the least amount of money. So if I still get the XFL, I've got to deal with Vince McMahon. It's kind of one of those things where, I don't know, get rid of McMahon and lose the XFL and what we have, or keep McMahon and know that you're going to keep the XFL. I don't know, and I don't know what talks have gone on behind doors. I do know that, you can definitely tell that Vince McMahon has done this strategically. And, listen, it was terrible, all of the people losing their jobs and that with it and not having a paycheck anymore and not being there anymore. And I don't know how they feel. I think that's a good question, and one to ask is, going from players to, executives to coaches, to media people, to equipment people, to all these different people that were employed by the XFL, what they think now after they've been, fired, let go of their positions. One thing that is nice, they're able to, file for, unemployment. And right now, the way that unemployment and everything's set up, granted, if you can actually, get through to unemployment and actually get set up for your unemployment, because most people it's been crazy for them. And they haven't even been able to, to even get through yet. It's actually, been a fairly decent thing for those people that have had to do it. To where, you look at that and, you don't ever want anybody to lose their job or anything like that. But in at least the climate in which we are here in the United States, you could see that that's kind of the best scenario, because in some scenarios, the people who end up on unemployment end up making end up having more money than what they had had they been working. So you look at it, okay, maybe McMahon did them a favor. I'm not saying that, because that's nothing to do. He didn't have to pay those paychecks, and so he cut ties with everybody. That's what he did, with that. The interesting thing is that, a lot of these places are talking about is what they did with the $3.5 million when it comes to with the season ticket holders, and that, and paying all that back. That is really kind of one of the more interesting pieces of this for me. And the reason being, and this is one of those things where it leads people to think that Vince McMahon is really trying to bring back the XFL. Now, why do I say that? Well, as it looks, as we look at this is one of those things to where, hold on, I'm trying to pull this up so I can read it off, correctly and not us. Okay. So the clues as to the creditors' beliefs come from their objection to a proposal in bankruptcy to pay $3.5 million in ticket sale refunds. The committee of creditors wrote that the payment is being sought to further the efforts of the debtors controlling equity holder, secured lender Vincent McMahon, to acquire the debt at a fire sale price. The ticket refunds would be aimed at bolstering relations with customers in anticipation of a future business arrangement. If that's McMahon's plan, and if it succeeds, he'd have to rebuild the league from the ground up, rehiring coaches and players and others necessary to run the league. Anyone who previously worked for the league and was stiffed in any way may not incline to return. But if folks want to work in football, so the thing that I want to clue in here on is that he's positioning to buy himself out of bankruptcy so that pretty much he can start with a fresh slate. But the thing is that the credit is the whole thing of the season ticket holders, and the idea is, to kind of, pay that back, so to say, so you can show kind of good faith and bring people back, and that the customers, the idea of bringing those people back, and not necessarily, the worry isn't so much about, the people who are employees, because listen, if they want to be in football, they're going to have to come back to us because we're the only gig in town if they can't get in the NFL, in which they can't get in the NFL. So that's what it's looking like. Whereas with the $3.5 million back to the customers for their ticket sales, the idea is I give you your money back. I'm showing you good faith, this and that, giving you a good experience, and you come back to me. So the idea is for him wanting to do that, and to do that is really showing that he's wanting to keep this league afloat. And where the money is concerned, bringing money in, he doesn't want to hurt anything with that. Makes total sense to me, and that's just that's not one of those smoking guns. That's just another one of those things that just puts pieces in place that, okay, yeah, that's just another thing to add on top of, having the smoking gun, which we're going to talk about here in a second. But, this is Vince McMahon to a T, to try to save as much money as possible. The question with that is the other side of it. Will coaches, will players trust in, him again? The one thing that has been nice, and you've heard me talk about it with different people, whether it be PJ Walker, whether it be with Norm Chow, whether it be with other coaches and things, they all expressed just how much they liked their time with the XFL and how much they enjoyed their time with the XFL. Now, they didn't, now obviously kind of what all happened with everything with it. We don't need to go through and explain all of that. But the question is whether or not after that, if there's enough faith left there to trust to come back. And that's really the key. Hopefully, knock on wood, we don't see anything like we saw this year that would have a turn of events like what we've had. And so, are people willing to take that risk and go through that? And I would imagine if they're wanting to, to continue to live their football dream, as what they're saying in these articles, is that this is really their only shot, their only chance. And so, they're willing to try to stiff those people because they know that they can bring them back, because they know that this is their only shot if they want to continue in football in one form or another, whether it be coaching, whether it be player, and that type of a realm and that type of a thing. And for me, I am torn on this. I really, really am. And on one end, I'm like, man, I'm like, this is a shrewd dude, and we know this. We know this is Vince McMahon. We know this is how he does businesses. We know that this is what he's doing, and this and that. We shouldn't be surprised in that, and I'm not really surprised. I kind of said this from the beginning. If he's looking to do that, he's probably just looking for a way to go through, all this process. And the other thing with it is listen, I think he's playing with a stacked deck here. If he really is wanting the league back, he's got it set up to where there's no way that he's going to lose the league. So all of these other bidders and things like that, listen, this is this is a dog and pony show. This is just all of that. And the whole luck thing, as I'm thinking about it now, could be, quite honestly, could be a whole thing where, Oliver Luck sues McMahon, blah, 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 this and that, and they do another contract and a deal, and something comes out of this whole thing, and it's just a formality, like I've said before. Now, it's not playing out as such, but who knows? Crazier things have happened, and it could just be a formality. Boom, 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 boom. This whole thing, the sale goes out. They settle outside of court, and all of a sudden you see Oliver Luck back on the sidelines again. And he's got a restructured contract. I don't know. But if we know McMahon and the way that he does things, if he truly is trying to quote unquote buy the league out of bankruptcy, then what he is doing is he's saving himself money. And I can tell you that none of these other bidders who we know are there, and there are people who seriously want this league and want to buy this league, that they don't have a chance. And if you remember Vince McMahon's music, you got it playing in your head. That truly is him, and they don't have a shot at all at this. The other side of me is kind of, is excited the fact that, Vince McMahon just doesn't let pet projects go, and those quotes that were floating around. If Vince McMahon really had his heart in this, the XFL could have made this through that. And I'm just like, that's just not Vince McMahon to me. He doesn't do anything half-hearted. So he's going to put all of his stuff and all of his time and energy into this, and this makes sense. It just makes sense. That it's him. He's going to bring the league back. And actually, quite frankly, I'm excited now more than I ever have been of bringing the league back, because I know what the product will get back. Now, will we get the same players and the same coaches and the same atmosphere? I don't know. And the same TV partners? Probably. I mean, ESPN and Fox had great numbers. He could easily entice them to come back. There's definitely no doubt about that. And where they're sitting right now, they're sitting at the perfect time to come back to sports, especially after, everybody else has kind of already figured it out for them. And, with these stadiums the way that they are and the things and the amount of fans that they're having, they can do that whole, social distancing thing and all of that. So, as I look at that, I mean, it's all smart stuff on his part. And, big part of me was really wanting to get rid of Vince McMahon. And now, I'm just kind of, the other part of me is like, this is actually a really good thing for the XFL, because, we could see that I can see where things are going to go with the XFL. Now, it could come all out and come all completely unraveled and everything with it. And it ended up getting sold and, us moving on, because, once it gets sold, you still have to figure out what the new people are going to do. Whereas with the XFL, you've already kind of seen what Vince McMahon's planned on doing and what he's going to do. And so you can kind of see that continuation, and we can kind of go from there with it. So I don't know. We're definitely going to have to see how this thing all plays out. Now let's talk about the smoking gun. And this is the big deal, is Jeffrey Pollack, who's the president, like I said before, he's been reaching out to the different venues to try to get things back, to bring back the XFL. And it's been confirmed by some source within St. Louis, that runs the stadium there, some source there in St. Louis, that they've been contacted by Jeffrey Pollack. And also it's been named Seattle. Now, we don't have any sources from Seattle confirming that, but we do have the sources from St. Louis. And listen, this makes sense to me, and this makes sense to all of the stuff that all of the former employees were saying beforehand, that they were looking to expansion, they were looking to add teams, and they were looking to move some teams and to really do that. And I think that would be a really good thing. And it looks to me that they're looking to start things back where they left off, and that this has just been a formality, and now they're finally able to really take things and continue to move things forward with all of this. And like it or not, this is kind of where we're sitting. I'd love to hear, and if any of you out there that are watching any of this video have any contacts to any former XFL players, any coaches, any former employees that would love to talk, I'd love to talk with them. Hook me up with them. I'd love to be in contact with them, and I'd really like to get their thoughts on how they feel about the XFL. Would they go back to the XFL? Would they work for the XFL again? How they would do that, because that really, for me, is really where you're kind of sitting now. Obviously, we're kind of starting to see, and I've said this already. Listen, as the months go by, we'll see where we truly sit with the XFL. And the XFL never was planning on dying and stuff, and it looks like that this is just a formality process that we're kind of going through, and it looks like Vince McMahon's just going to continue on, and the XFL will continue on. That's how it's looking today. Now, tomorrow, that'll bring another story. And I think one of the things right now is that we're so in tune with it, because life literally has stopped. Whereas normally, we're in this rat race and we're continuing moving and our life's just going on, and we all have work and we all have this stuff that we're doing. Whereas the past few months, we past couple months, we haven't really had a whole lot. And two, there hasn't been distractions to distract us from everything. So every little thing was big news. And it was like, something this week. And then, you have these days where there's just nothing there. It's bad when ESPN is highlighting, South Korean baseball. Nothing wrong with South Korean baseball. Good product, good stuff. But when that's their marquee thing, that's all they got. You know that it's bad news. So who knows? We'll see what's going on with this. I'll definitely keep up with the videos and the stuff because there's more that I want to talk about with this, and I've kind of already been long in the tooth. But listen, this is really the whole crux of where I'm sitting at with this thing. All right. On one hand, we've got Vince McMahon and everything that he's done and all that he's doing, and it's got me frustrated and mad and ticked off, and I don't want him, around, the league anymore. I want his hands washed of everything. And then on the other hand, it's like, what? This is a real solid thing for getting back a product that I really loved, something that I know a lot of you loved, and we know what we're getting with Vince McMahon, right? It's kind of that old adage, at least this is, the devil that instead of having somebody new and you don't have a clue what it is, at least the faults with the one that you got. And it's kind of that, and so I was like, part of me is really excited because this seems to be pretty legit, and it looks like we will definitely be getting the XFL back, the same product. Now, whether or not, there'll be a lot of different players in the game and a lot of different coaches and a lot of different pieces, but at least, that foundation looks like it's going to stay the same. The second thing, with it is like the whole thing of McMahon screwing everything up. And the thing that really looms out there for me is what's going to happen with Oliver Luck. I really want to see how that all transpires, and we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that stuff up in more upcoming videos, but that's where I am. One end, I'm really ticked off, and McMahon duped us again. And on the other hand, I'm like, this is good news for the XFL. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Let me know down in the comments where you're sitting, where your thoughts are at. I love to hear them, and let me know. All right, stay safe out there and keep up the hope. Have a good night. Bye.